Kicking off another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show, coming to you live from Studio G right here in the heart of America. I am Steve Gruber, fighting for you every day from the foxhole of freedom. I'm willing to tell you the truth every day when other people will not. I'll be brutally honest. Let's go. Here are your three big stories for this hour, America. Number one, Scranton Joe. Well, not anymore. Joe Biden likes to claim he is from Scranton, Pennsylvania, but the people there don't want anything to do with him. More evidence of a collapsing support for him. Number two, shoot to kill. We have learned that when the Justice Department, under the authorization of Merrick Garland and Maine Justice, decided to raid Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, the FBI was given the green light to use lethal force. Lethal force. Outrageous. And number three, how about Harrison Butker for the extra point? I've been meaning to weigh in on this one for a few days, and I'm not going to let some hysterical voices on the fringes keeping me from speaking the truth about what an epic graduation speech this three-time Super Bowl winner gave to a Catholic college for the commencement speech. When Pope Francis says we are all good, save some rogues and sinners, forgive him, for he knows not what he says. He seems to have lost his divine providence, at least to me. When he takes shots at regular Americans and followers of the Catholic faith or Christians in general, I'm truly lost on the message the Holy Father's trying to deliver, and more importantly, why? I don't quite understand this. The Pope has lost his way by labeling all conservatives with a very broad and unflattering brush. This is from 60 Minutes. Listen.
There are conservative bishops in the United States that oppose your new efforts to revisit teachings and traditions. How do you address their criticism?
You used an adjective, conservative. That is, conservative is one who clings to something and does not want to see beyond that. It is a suicidal attitude. Because one thing is to take tradition into account, to consider situations from the past, but quite another is to be closed up inside a dogmatic box.
Suicidal attitude. Oh, you conservatives that have principles and foundational principles. Suicidal attitude. When what he says is sinful, he goes against the facts and the tenets of the Catholic Church, his church. All Catholics deserve forgiveness according to the doctrine, his doctrine. For Francis knows nothing. He knows a lot less than, say, Harrison Butker, whose commencement address at Benedictine College speaks to the necessity of faith, family, and community. Well, we know it's clear that the head of the Holy See has no vision. He has no right to undermine the beliefs and rights of the Catholic Church or any other Christians for that matter. That he is wrong in what he says is wrong, as he speaks more like the ruler of the world's smallest city-state than a believer in the glory of the heavenly city and Jesus of Nazareth. That's the way he comes across. Spoke to one person last night and said, I don't really think he's Catholic. Start New York City, home to the United Nations. Leave it to the UN to hold a moment of silence in memory of Ibrahim Raisi, better known as the butcher of Tehran, the president who died in a helicopter accident over the weekend. Leave it to our deputy ambassador to join the ceremony at the request of Russia, China, and Algeria. Unbelievable. Leave it to the State Department to offer official condolences regarding the death of the theocrat and the supporter of the death cult. Yeah, forgive me if I refuse to send a sympathy card to Tehran, for I will not stand. I will not rise. I'm not going to honor a murderer, a guy who shoved his own people into mass graves, and I will not reserve judgment. We must not withhold judgment because we owe it to history. We owe it to ourselves and posterity to speak the truth, to record it, to print it, to share it, and most importantly, to secure it. Evil is real. Evil is constant. Raisi was, by any definition of a rational person, evil. Beyond dispute to me. If you doubt me, look to the mass graves, like I said, that he left littered behind him, the graves of his own people and the graves of many more killed by the terrorists he funded and applauded for years and years. The Pope says we're all fundamentally good. Is that really true? Listen.
Heroic men who have hopes and dreams, women who look to the future. That gives me a lot of hope. People want to live, people forge ahead, and people are fundamentally good. We are all fundamentally good. Yes, there are some rogues and sinners, but the heart itself is good.
Rogues and sinners. I don't know about you, but I don't believe that everyone is fundamentally good. I see evil on an all too regular basis. It's become normalized. The Pope's words are off the mark. We're not fundamentally good. We pray for a good heart, of course, and ask God to renew the spirit in us and the spirit in America. And this nation needs a spiritual revival now more than ever before. We do need salvation. So when Harrison Butker talks about the role of the church, he does so as both a Catholic, a Christian, and a citizen of the United States of America. I respect him for having the conviction to do so, the courage to do so. He says God gave him the platform to tell the truth. Here's part of what he said.
But if we are going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition. We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice. It is safe to say that over the past few years, I've gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of a platform, but God has given it to me, so I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths about accepting your lane and staying in it.
Accepting your lane and staying in it. If the place kicker from the Kansas City Chief finds the church in America wanting, if he finds the church derelict in its duties, doesn't seem wrong. For his part, he called out cowardice in the face of great obstacles, and he called out the Catholic Church itself. Here's more of what he said.
The chaos of the world is unfortunately reflected in the chaos in our parishes, and sadly, in our cathedrals too. As we saw during the pandemic, too many bishops were not leaders at all. They were motivated by fear of being sued, fear of being removed, fear of being disliked. They showed by their actions, intentional or unintentional, that the sacraments don't actually matter. Because of this, countless people died alone without access to the sacraments, and it's a tragedy we must never forget. As Catholics, we can look to so many examples of heroic shepherds who gave their lives for their people, and ultimately, the church.
Yeah, and for the church, for their beliefs. If he says the state has no sovereignty over the sacraments, then the temporal power does not trump spiritual power. If he says the church must not surrender its authority, he can't be wrong. If he also says COVID is a catch-all for what plagues the church, that it's a symptom of a much larger condition for which there is no vaccine, but there shall never be a vaccine, he's right. The heart requires the love of the church, not the wonders of science. Yeah. Again, Butker preaches the gospel, especially as it pertains to fathers, and he is a father and a husband too. But for his wife, with whom he has two wonderful daughters, he would be neither. You see, this is the family that he talked about. The core of America, the core of the family. Critically important. I'll continue this conversation after the break.